Hi, I'm Jasmin, and I'm an IT guy.
No, you're not. You're an IT grandpa.
Ah,
Getting closer to that every passing day.
me making computers go brr.
Things that make you go,
And I had a talk today with a guy who was trying to ask me for a favor, and I said I don't know anything. I'm just a guy. I make things go brr. I know dev.
So, unlike the last podcast that we did, you migrated from I test stuff to I go brr.
I make stuff go brr.
Is that evolution or devolution?
I think it's evolution because you just try to, as the Christmas is getting nearer, you just try to get the users off your back. So the idea is to just make them go away and make the problems go away because the users equal problems.
End users. So, level 1 support.
Yes.
Yeah, that can be hell of annoying. I'm with you on that.
So what are you doing today?
I don't know. I thought we could talk a little bit about the things that are happening on the GPU market.
Oh, things are happening on the GPU market, yes. Thankfully, the mine riggers and the miners have gone away. Cards are getting cheaper. So right now you don't need both kidneys to buy a card. You just need one. So this is getting better.
So from 2 kidneys to 1 kidney to liver to
I don't know. But
bone marrow or something.
bone marrow probably, yes.
Yeah, probably the logical next step. Yeah, I was actually looking into, continuing on some of the topics that we covered last time, I was looking into some of the stuff happening in the past couple of years in terms of the GPU market.
Okay.
Even forgetting about the fact that we had still partially have this COVID thing happening, even though we had, as you mentioned, stuff related to scalpers happening, especially for the mining market, etc. Even though we have currently a lot of problems with chips shortage and many corresponding details related to all of that, I'm still a little bit I hesitate to use the word angry. It's more confused, and then it's a little bit worried, and then maybe angry a bit as well, just as a regular user, from the perspective of checking how cheap the graphic cards are. Hence the reason why last time around we talked about Intel Arc. That should offer some mainstream, let's say, progress in a sense of gaming versus performance if everything goes well over, let's say, at least midterm period of time. But, going through an era where graphics cards went from being irrelevant way back in the day to an era in which they started becoming relevant to all of a sudden being all irrelevant, and then with various types of advancements happening in technology and design in CPUs and GPUs and all of that, a lot of stuff has changed. And I'm not sure that it's for the better.
I think that I need more numbers. Basically, I was thinking about it when we were preparing all of this, and I need more numbers because we are basically in an era where we are switching from the desktop to the laptop. And I think that the laptops are gaining market. Desktops are lagging behind. Gaming desktops are becoming a niche, more of a niche than they were. So I think that the reason why the market is driving the price of the cards up is because the cards are more expensive to make, because the volumes are smaller. They are basically the technology previous of something that is going to be in the laptop in the next couple of years for a given family of chips or a family of GPUs. So I need more data on how many cards are actually sold, because the mining created an artificial selling point for a lot of cards. And I think that the problem is that right now both or the three of the guys who are trying to dominate the market. Let's say that Intel is trying to dominate the market. However, right now, however funny that may sound, all three of them have a problem because they don't actually have the market that they had 3 years ago. Laptops are becoming...
You mean in volume?
Yeah, in volume. Because
Okay.
the COVID didn't only mean that people stopped buying cards. COVID also meant that people started buying laptops because they wanted to work from home. They wanted to be able to work from any place in the home. They didn't want to be stuck with the computer somewhere in some part of the house or in some part of the apartment. So graphic cards are becoming irrelevant. And the problem is that you can get a decent amount of FPS or a decent amount of whatever rendering power do you need from basically just an average card. Right now, not a lot of people need high-end graphic cards. Journalists do. People who enjoy games, they do. But you can basically casually enjoy games using a card that is 3 or 4 years old. So I don't think that the problem is right now with the price of the hardware because you don't need this kind of hardware. You can get away with using an 1070 instead of a 380, and you are going to pay basically a fraction of the price. So we are looking at the market, and we are discussing about Ferraris, but people are buying Fiats. So basically, we are talking about high-end graphic cards that nobody buys, that have artificially high prices, and people are buying good enough cards for a normal amount of money. And I think that the greed that nvidia is right now showing, and both nvidia and AMD are going to show, is based on the idea of driving the price of the high-end cards because they want to drive up the price of the average card. Because an average card should probably be even cheaper.
And they should sell in volume as well.
Yes. So people are going to buy the cheaper cards. And by artificially inflating the price of the more expensive cards, basically they are creating a market for the cheaper cards that is going to be also inflated in order to get more money. Because the volume is not there.
Okay, there are a couple of related questions to this. How do you see, for example, consoles fitting into that? Because consoles are not cheap, yet still people buy them in the millions.
Yes, but the technology that is going into the consoles is basically 3 or 4 years old. Right now, they are pushing for technology that is going to be in the next console, but more or less nobody needs new consoles right now. We are dealing with consoles that are 3 years old, 4 years old, 5 years old, because the need for faster hardware is diminishing. We don't need faster hardware. We don't need new CPUs. We don't need new GPUs in order to make games run faster. It is a nice thing to have, but there is a lot of things that you can do with the hardware that is already on the market.
To that point, actually, let's have a discussion about that, because when COVID started in 2020, I remember the days when we were, both you and I, when we started our summer semester.
Okay.
First week, and then second week we were supposed to be online. It's exactly like that. First week we were here,
yes,
in the building, and then the next week we were already online. 2020 was very complex in terms of the hardware market, especially because as kind of like as the politics of it all, as they kind of like got to the grips of how they want to deal with the situation, for the good and bad of it, not getting into that, that's not the topic. A lot of time passed. And from the perspective of consoles, I remember that when PS5 was introduced, which was in 2020 in November, I think.
Okay.
I remember even in our little country, people were standing in lines hundreds of meters long to buy it. And it wasn't cheap, and it still isn't cheap. That being said, there is an argument to be made there that it's cheaper to buy a console to play a high-end game than to try to do the same with a PC which is where the other part of the market is, because the high-end PC is going to be a hell of a lot more expensive.
This is one thing, and the other problem is that high-end PC now requires an immense amount of tinkering around and knowledge. Because if you want to buy a high-end PC, it's not that you don't have the choice. You have a lot of choices, both on the motherboard end. You have the choices for the GPUs, for the CPUs, for the memory, even for the disks that used to be just something that you just bought. Now you had different kinds of NVMe's, different kinds of SSDs, and so on and so on. So people are tired of choices. People just want, sometimes they just want something to play on. So this is the reason why Steam Deck is gaining traction, because people, regardless of it using Linux and regardless of it using different not only operating system but different system in which the games are played, people like Steam Deck. Because Steam Deck is basically what it says on the box. It's a gaming machine. You just use it to be gaming on the go, and then you can use it as a normal machine or a normal PC when you need to do something. So we are introducing something like a hybrid between a console and a PC, and this hybrid is close enough to what people need when they want to work on the PC at home. But most of the people are not hardcore users like you and I. We are demanding much more from our PCs than an average user. Average user basically wants fast internet. He wants or she wants some sort of ability to send and receive emails, to do some documents, and to do some Excel probably, or
a little bit of video,
whatever.
YouTube, stuff like that, yes.
And then a lot of consuming of videos, a lot of consuming of podcasts, a lot of consuming of games, and
Spotify, audios,
yes,
multimedia
yes,
stuff.
but even Spotify is now moving away from the PC. It's moving to dedicated devices. So you can have Sonos speakers. You can have different speakers that are able to directly use Spotify. Every Google device is able to use Spotify. Every Amazon device is able to use Spotify. And even in the darkest part of the world that we live in, where those devices are not available or are available through, I would say, gray channels, you can get devices that use Spotify. So we are moving to the way that the iPad created a new market of consumers and consuming. No, so not only consumer electronics, but the electronics intended for consuming content. We are now in the middle of a fight of creating an ideal PC to be able to consume content.
Let's actually, the Steam Deck is a valid point there. I would argue that Steam Deck comes from a couple of different background engineering / gaming ideas.
Yes.
I would say that the basis for Steam Deck, if I was to look at it from a customer perspective, I would say that the core of Steam Deck in terms of how it came to be is actually Nintendo Switch.
Yes.
There is a reason for me to say that. I've had Switch for years now. Even as I usually say that I'm not a gamer, and you know that, but Nintendo Switch is different. I do have PlayStation as well, PS3, but I rarely play that one, and there's a reason why. And you can basically approach that topic from an angle of old farts. Reason being that the old games that we used to play, that we used to do all night long, that involved a lot of RPG or simulations or whatnot, are not all that interesting to us anymore. Nowadays, as you get older, from our perspective, it's more about inclusion. It's more about having fun with people around you, if possible. And this is where, for me, as a consumer, I'm not talking about it as an ex-journalist or a professional or something, as a purebred consumer, from that perspective, Switch is ideal, because you can have fun with 3 or 4 of your friends, invite them over, have a gaming night, and everybody is going to have a good time.
You can also do that
But just one more thing. Out of that, if you extract the core of that idea and apply it to a single gamer, That's what Steam Deck is.
Yes, that and the other thing. The other thing is that you want to be able not only to use casual games, you also want to be able to casually game.
Without any administration and all of the stuff related. That's what
I have another thing to pick. Most of the laptops right now, mid-range or high-end laptops that we have, basically even most of the laptops that are able to run Office are completely capable of running, I don't know, 10-year-old games.
Correct.
And there is an amazing number of 10-year-old games that we are able to use and we are able to play on today's laptop. I don't know if a single person in the last 10 years said to me, we are going to create a LAN party with laptops somewhere. But when you have Switch or you have Steam Deck or you have a console, it is quite possible that people are going to invite you to a night of gaming.
Exactly. It's a different culture, I'd say.
Yes, it's a different culture, but it's also a different idea of gaming because people
No,
don't...
it's not. It's actually a copy-paste of the gaming of the yesteryear, which was based around the idea of LAN party with multiple computers. It's just centered around one or a couple of computers, not many of them.
But we wanted to play, and it was anything but casual.
Correct. We were very competitive at it.
Yes, but the problem was that if you wanted to get your 10 or 15 friends to play at your place, you basically needed to create a place for 15 computers with CRTs. You needed 4 or 5 hours to set it up. You needed
100 square meters of space.
Hundreds of square meters of space. You needed UTP cables because there was no wireless. You needed to stretch those cables. You needed switches. You needed things that you weren't able to normally
acquire easily because they were very expensive.
Yes, and right now we are at the edge of the using basically technology that is so cheap that basically what we needed to set up LAN party is the amount of money that it takes to buy a complete setup for a Steam Deck. So Steam Deck as such is cheaper than the networking stuff that we needed for a LAN party.
Oh, I remember that. I remember going to a fair here in Zagreb when it used to exist and looking for an Ethernet adapter. At that point in time, it was ISA or PCI, no PCI Express.
With the BNC?
Yeah, with the BNC as well, so coaxial. I was looking for one of those, and I was looking for one that was PCM CIA for the laptop. I remember my father took me to that fair here locally, and he cashed out or splashed out such an enormous amount of money for that. It was like, let's say, if you did the direct conversion from that money to today, it would be something like 150 euros for the PCM CIA card. It would be close to 100 euros for the PCI card that I used, but it was in something like 1997 or 8. So taking inflation rate into consideration and everything, that's when you compare that to the average salary back then, it was those two cards were more than an average salary today, which is around 700 or 800 euros in our country.
Yes, but we went way off the track.
No, just wanted to mention that you're completely correct.
Yes, I know, but we started from the graphic cards.
Yeah.
Right now, you can buy, 4 Steam Decks for the price of the high-end NVIDIA?
Yes, roughly.
So basically, not roughly.
Let's say free.
No. I would say it's exactly 4 because I just checked. Steam Deck is around $400. NVIDIA high-end is around
2,000 or maybe a little bit less.
$1,600. So basically 4 times. 4 or 5 Steam Decks for a single graphics card.
I was counting on the real life cost of that because that means you have to ship it here, pay the cost for that, etc. While NVIDIA is available in your local store, so that's going to create a difference. But yes.
Yes. Okay. But
to your point, let's say 4.
Yes, but we are quoting prices from the internet. When the local dealers here in Croatia do their magic, all the prices go up.
Yeah.
So suddenly euro becomes 30% more valuable to them than it is actually. But okay, Steam Deck is cheap. Gaming is cheap now. People like cheap and easy. And what we are now creating is two different gaming worlds. One is based on mobile gaming, mobile casual gaming with complex games, because Steam Deck is not by any stretch of imagination a simple machine. It is able to run AAA titles. It is able to run a lot of titles right now, and it is fun. It is cheap. And I think that it is going to slowly erode the market for the consoles, because it is a console, because it's the same thing that the iPad did for the market for the PCs. I think that Steam Deck right now is doing on the market for the consoles.
Okay, that's basically what Switch kind of did as well, in a sense, because it's the same model. It's movable or mobile gaming, which is fun and easy to use. While there are still, I'm aware of the fact that Steam Deck is vastly different to what Nintendo Switch tries to do. That's beside the point, because Nintendo Switch is all about, let's say, more of a retro type of thing, old type of games more, which we used to play when we were younger. Simpler graphics, not as much focus on that. More
It's just basically what we will call family gaming. Family gaming.
Yeah, for fun, just for pure fun.
But I would consider all the games fun, but. Because if it's not fun, it's not a game. I wouldn't consider Excel fun.
Yeah, but it's not a game.
Yes. So this is my idea of fun. So if it's fun, it's a game. If it's not fun, I'm not going to use it.
Yeah, I understand your tautology, but I was talking about different approach to gaming,
family casual fun.
Yes,
family
correct.
casual fun.
That's
because the idea of the Switch is that everybody from the family, including 5 years old kids, can just take a Switch and in 10 minutes understand everything that is happening on the Switch.
Correct.
And this is the idea, because when you take into consideration what games are looking like today, you have 20, 30, 50 functions available on the keyboard. You have different ways of doing things. And this is rare on the Switch. This only happens...
It's not rare. It doesn't happen.
It does happen when people are trying to port a PC game to the Switch.
Yeah.
And then they try to port every single feature the Switch, and then suddenly you need all the 10 digits that you have, and then...
That's not fun.
Including your nose to be able to do something.
Yes.
And this is not something that people actually like to do.
Correct.
To be completely honest, some games also do have complex functions, but on the Switch, they're always fun, and they are not the front and center thing that you actually need to learn.
Correct. That's exactly what I wanted to say.
In the PC gaming, basically there is an enormous amount of things that you would actually need to learn to play a normal game. So it used to be an FPS. It used to be just basically point and shoot. Right now you need to use 20 different keys on the keyboard to be able to do all the stuff that is that's done in the FPS.
And PC is more about the eye candy.
I would say that...
I'm challenging you. Treat that as a question.
Okay, let's talk about eye candy. Do you like, from the gamer's perspective, what is more appealing to you? Let's say 60 FPS, I don't know, Nintendo Switch game on a large screen in the living room, or 60 FPS complex FPS shooter done in Unreal 5.0 whatever on a smaller screen on the PC. Because when you're playing on the PC, you're always using the monitor that you have. You're going to pay an arm and a leg for the monitor. You're going to pay an arm and a leg for the graphic card.
CPU.
Yes, you're going to pay some money for the memory. You are going to need the high-end CPU and so on. And then you are getting eye candy on the PC. But eye candy that is, for example, on the Switch, because I don't want to take sides. I like Switch, I like Steam Deck, I like all the consoles all different consoles. Sometimes playing something on a bigger screen is actually a bigger eye candy than it would be if you're just playing it on a monitor.
Agreed.
And it's hard to translate from a PC gaming to the gaming in the living room, because Steam has tried it, everybody has tried it, but getting a PC and then switching to the controller and then switching to some kind of a link to the living room TV is not something a lot of people do.
Agreed.
So eye candy is eye candy when you're playing solo, but in most family
Multiplayer,
environments,
whatnot.
I have a 5-year-old kid. He likes to play Mario Kart, whatever.
He's my type of guy.
Yes, but what he does is he's tired. He has 5 years. He's tired on single player game. He wants to play with me because he understands that gaming is much more fun when you're playing multiplayer. So he likes Switch because it's easy to play in the multiplayer on the Switch. We try to do it on the PC. Basically, he hates the idea of having to use the keyboard because it's complicated to him.
Agreed.
And
it's complicated to you and me as well.
Yes. So we have 3 different types of gamers. Some like playing casual games like solitaire. We have guys that are PC Master Race guys who want to create a 4,000 euro gaming PC or 5,000 euros gaming PC that is going to be exclusively used for whatever, Microsoft Simulator, whatever.
Flight Simulator, yeah.
Yes, and then we have guys who want to do the casual gaming with some eye candy, but always available gaming with Steam Deck or with Switch. And I think that Nintendo is doing the better job there. So, let's talk about casual gaming. And let's try to go back to where you started, because you were trying to make me say that graphic cards are getting expensive. Yes, they are.
I wasn't trying to get you to say that. It's true.
Yes, but nobody cares about them.
Oh, yes, they do.
Yes, but people who do are the same people who care about, I don't know, vegan vegetables and the aluminum paper foil being vegan. We are talking about political correctness here right now, but I'm going to get cancelled as soon as everybody hears this. But
how did this become a podcast about green energy and stuff?
The problem is that mainstream people are basically awful. They don't care about mainstream means right now not caring about a lot of things. This is what we are trying to change. This is the idea of change, that is the green transition and so on and so on. But right now, an average person wants to buy a cheap graphic card. They don't care about high-end graphic cards.
Okay, but I have a very cool argument to be made there. Why aren't CPUs that expensive?
But they are.
No, they're not. I just bought, as I'm sure you know, I bought a new computer which is 3900K.
Okay.
That CPU, which is top of the line that exists on the market right now, was less than 500 euros.
Okay, but an average person...
Wait. We remember very well how it used to be with Extreme Edition processors of the high end, etc., which is what this basically is. They were 1,000 euros plus, easily. So, okay, if you go to the, let's say, AMD side of things do get a little bit more expensive. But at different processor, let's say, lines. I agree with you there. But CPUs are not on the ascending price line if you're enjoying it as much. But basically, what Intel did in the past 2 generations, since coming back to their senses and producing decent CPUs after a while, they actually crashed the prices a lot.
Yes, because AMD crashed their price. They got their ass kicked by the AMD.
That's not what happened.
It happened because technology-wise, Intel is better. But AMD made a breakthrough in slashing the prices, so Intel had to follow that lead.
But AMD has had the technological advancements on their side for the past 3 generations of CPUs at least.
Yes, but they also got the prices down. And then Intel had to follow, and this is why we have cheaper CPUs right now. And I think that this is a good thing. What is bothering me is that the GPU prices don't have that kind of advantage because both AMD and nvidia are trying to push the prices up because they need the money, because they need the development. Tell me, do you think that the GPUs are advancing as fast as CPUs right now, technology-wise?
Technology-wise,
Yes.
I think they're faster evolving
No,
than
no, 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 no,
CPUs.
no, 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 no raw speed. I'm just talking about different technologies because right now
Oh, okay. No,
the architecture,
no.
design, and everything that is right now on this on the CPU side of things is vastly different than where it was 5 years ago. GPUs are basically just bigger. They have more cores. They have more different stages of whatever, but they didn't go. The technology hasn't advanced.
Innovation
Yes.
is not there at that fast pace as the CPUs.
So right now,
Okay, I
the
agree.
GPUs are trying to run the prices up in order to drive the money because they need the money in order to innovate.
You could argue actually what you just said, which I completely agree with. You could argue that GPUs are doing it the like fist in the face way, brute
Yes,
force way.
yes.
CPUs are trying to be intelligent about it.
Yes, but the idea is that CPUs right now need to get the people on their side, and then they're going to stagnate for 5 years or so. Then they're going to just do the same thing that the GPU guys are doing right now, and then they are going to push the prices up until the price or the market breaks, and then they're going to push the prices down. Because it's a normal thing. It's the same thing that happens with the mobile phones. When you take a look at the mobile phones, you see the different. I'm not going to mention any manufacturers, but different manufacturers come to a point where their mobile phone is considered to be top of the line, and they then do small, even smaller steps, iterations on different versions, and getting the prices up until the people are fed up, and then they actually innovate. So they're basically skimming the cream from the top of the market and trying to get the money in the second. First, they invest the money in the new technology, and then they're trying to skim the market because they want to be able to get their money back from the technology that they developed. So right now, I think that the GPU guys are trying to get the money from the old technology, and the CPUs need to get the new technology into the hands of the people in order to drive the market.
Okay, I get it. I would like to make a couple of points to your point, kind of like to support that, but at the same time, I might offer some counterpoints to what you said, just for discussion purposes. Thing number one, Apple created quite a stir on the market with the MCPUs.
Okay.
In terms of the architecture, while we're talking about architecture and advancements in technology. Reason being that for the first time in a long time, not for the first time, just for the first time in a long time, somebody produced a CPU that has memory integrated.
Okay.
Which is something that Intel didn't do for many years. They used to try to do it, but let's not go into a past of long ago. That's not the point. The point is that they made quite a stir on the market because of that, on technology level, which then led also to some things happening on the CPU market that are going to happen in the future. Reason is very simple, and we both know this because we deal with this every day in our everyday jobs, especially on some of the courses that we teach. The reason why Apple did that gamble with CPU, with GPU, with memory on the same die is simple. It is the fastest way. It is the cheapest and the fastest way to provide performance, while at the same time not spending overboard and over the top amount of money for every single chip to be made. So they made the best of the both worlds in terms of getting the design right, because their design, I think, is right. That's the way in which CPUs are probably going to look like in 3 or 4 years on all of the markets. There is a reason why I'm saying that. But at the same time, that meant that their integration of their CPU, GPU memory, which they have on M1, M2, is also giving them a lot of advantage in terms of performance because they don't need, as I'm sure you know, as much memory as they used to for it, because the memory is much lower latency and much greater speed.
I'm going to interrupt you because Apple is not a good example of what we are trying to say to here.
Because that's exactly the reason why I said it.
Because Apple is driving the innovation, but you have to consider that Apple has almost none of the games, almost none of the gaming is happening on the Apple. Desktop configurations are almost non-existent in the Apple world. They are mostly based on iPads, iPhones, and laptops. Laptops being the smallest of the group. So right now they have come to a point where they are actually producing probably the best laptops there are on the market in terms of battery life, in terms of efficiency, in terms of actually,
I would say performance for that efficiency and for the battery life as well.
What I would say usability, because in the end, when you take away the ability to game, because Apple is taking the ability to game from all of their users. Users basically don't use the Apple for gaming.
Yes.
When you take the ability to game from people, and people get to the point where they actually need a workhorse machine to be able to do their job every day, Apple is basically producing the best laptops there are. So, for a given constraint, Apple is better, but the constraint is enormous because CPU-wise, AMD and Intel are trying to cover a huge market. Apple is just using a small part of the market that is almost entirely based on consumer electronics, like iPad, and they are trying to make the best of consuming content. They're trying to aim for the lowest, for the highest battery life, so lowest consumption, and they're trying to make a chip that is going to be designed for the people who don't want to create. They are saying that they want people to create on the Apple machines.
Create what?
Create for the creativity, for the creative people, for the art people, and so on.
I would say that M1 and M2 are way better at that than the vast majority of combinations.
Yes, but the main idea is not M1 in the laptop. The main idea is M1 in the iPad or in the iPhone.
I get it.
So they want to get the longest battery life possible in their consumer market. They don't aim for the creativity. It used to be that people on the Apple used to be creative. Why did you buy 13-something Intel instead of a high-end Apple?
I already have high-end Apple, so I don't need it, but I was aiming for the desktop PC, and reason for that's actually a very good point. That's excellent. My reason for that, as I'm sure you know, is because of the fact that laptops are so notoriously difficult nowadays to upgrade in any sense, because they're limited by ports and everything that are in them, that you cannot hook up stuff like 3 or 4 monitors to a laptop. It's difficult. I'm not saying it's impossible. It's difficult and very expensive. But for my line of work and for your line of work, having multi-monitor support is not mandatory. It's the thing that we need to have. So M1 was kind of like piece of for that. Because you could connect 1-2 monitors, that's it. Both you and I have 5 or 6.
And this is why I'm saying that Apple is moving away from creation. They created a platform that is able to process the data, but acquiring data, which used to be a forte of Apple, is getting more complicated. Because a lot of stuff that we have here, you can connect to a single PC. It's a big pain in the butt to connect it to a single Apple computer.
Okay.
So if you have a couple of cameras or 3 cameras, if you have a mixing deck, if you have a couple of microphones and so on, it's complicated to connect them to an Apple computer because all the Apple laptops right now are trying to skip on the amount of different connectors that they have, and people who are producing cameras, people who are producing audiovisual equipment are not helping because they want workstations that are able to connect to, I don't know, 5 USBs, 7 USBs.
And workstations don't exist.
And workstations don't exist on the Apple's part. So
Correct.
people are basically pushed to the...
Stuck between the rock and the hard place.
Yes, because right now, if you want to do multimedia, you need to buy a PC. And if you want to buy the PC, you are basically forced to use Windows 11. And what is Windows 11's Achilles heel? Multimedia. So basically, you get an inferior product because Apple right now doesn't have the product that you need.
I would argue that you are partially correct. A reason being
I'm
that
always partially correct.
Yeah, that's the nature of our business. We both are. You are completely correct out of the box. No argument there. Out of the box for connectivity, Apple's products are not as good as PCs.
Yes, but I'm going to interrupt you. Interrupt you there. I know what you're going to say, but out of the box is good enough for me.
Yes, for the vast majority of people.
Because we are talking about unit pushing.
Yeah.
We are talking about nvidia trying to sell tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of graphic cards. Apple trying to sell millions of phones, millions of iPads.
Mm-hmm.
We are not talking about carefully crafted multimedia workstations for a single use.
Correct, but I would argue that people who are working in the multimedia business are still heavily using Mac for their jobs. Therefore, they are willing to make a little bit of a sacrifice to make that happen, which means all of the unpopular things. You have to buy a Thunderbolt dock. You have to buy external GPU for the PC version because the M whatever version doesn't support it at all, etc. So I'm with you all the time. So we are completely in agreement there. But I would say that still the multimedia guys are willing to put up with that, and there are perhaps a little bit of history reasons for that. Perhaps,
okay. I'm fine. I'm fine.
Perhaps a little bit of, let's say, posing reason for that as well, because you look cool if you have an Apple computer. Somehow, I don't know why. They're just a computer. They're just like any else, any other computer. But still, that being said, it is doable. It's just out of the box, much more difficult. And if you buy a PC, usually even for a mid-range motherboard, you have, 8 to 10 USB ports. You can connect practically everything. The inflection point is when PCs and Macs are going to have just the Thunderbolt ports. Then it's going to be either good or bad. I don't have the crystal ball of the future. Don't want to play the game on that. I'm just saying that, for example, PCs are really bad at that. Really, if you want to have Thunderbolt on a PC, you have to buy a hell of an expensive motherboard.
Yes, but
And back to the original point, gaming on Mac, no.
Okay, but
no
what
way.
I'm expecting right now, I'm waiting for the Apple to finally decide that they're going to have one operating system.
Yes.
And when they are going to stop treating iPad and Apple laptops are different devices.
Single ecosystem.
Yes, but they are treating them as different devices, different operating systems. I'm waiting for the moment when the iPad and the Apple laptops are going to have the same operating system.
Just like everybody else.
Yes, and then there is going to be a lot of changes because your docks for the laptops that you bought are going to be usable on the iPads, and this is a whole different ballgame then. Because
they already are. A lot of them.
Yes, but the applications are not there.
Yes, correct.
Applications are not there right now.
But Apple made one big concession in that part, actually, again, to counter your point, because you can connect USB-C disk to an iPad, run, let's say, DaVinci Resolve on iPad, and use it as a storage device, which in past they were unwilling to do up till recently.
Okay, but right now, so we are talking about a huge market, and this market is Steam Decks becoming mainstream gaming machines, or I'm using a Steam Deck as a placeholder. Mobile devices that are able to run almost all the games. Different consoles becoming gaming machines because they are in hundreds of millions. Laptops becoming a mainstream business machine. iPads and Apple's devices becoming consumer-grade content consuming machines. And where does it leave NVIDIA? nvidia is getting cornered in the market that is basically getting smaller and smaller.
I was hoping that you're going to go that way because I wanted to talk about this one. And I have a premise for that. I have actually a little bit of a different disposition to what you're saying, but let me go there for a second. 10 plus years ago,
Okay.
when we were still working as godforsaken journalists, NVIDIA and Intel were holding conversations. They had conversations about Intel and NVIDIA joining forces.
Okay.
According to the rumor mill, the only reason why that didn't happen is because Mr. Gelsinger and Mr. Jensen couldn't agree on who's going to be the CEO.
Okay.
If that happened, we would be talking about a much different future right now. Hence the reason, one of the reasons, not the only one, hence the reason why NVIDIA wanted to buy ARM. Because NVIDIA does see that future. They do see the writing on the wall for what you were saying. And one of the reasons why they wanted to buy ARM is exactly that, because that would give them entry to the CPU market as well. Not only CPU market as such, it's also about licensing of the CPU market, which ARM is heavily involved with. Coincidentally, I think that I was thinking about this today. This is one of the future topics for us to cover. Licensing in IT in general, and then licensing on hardware, software level, and moving into CPU, because Intel recently introduced licensing for their CPUs, believe it or not, for some of the features, for some of the registers. AMD bought ATI.
Okay.
Apple already has an integrated design.
Okay.
The only player who doesn't is NVIDIA. So I'm saying that's one of the reasons why they wanted to buy ARM, probably. Now, I take your point about NVIDIA being not in a happy place with this. I take that and I say, I'm with you on it. I think you're correct. But what remains to be seen is something else, because these are not the only CPU architectures on the market. Just last week, we had RISC-V conference, and Intel and NVIDIA and AMD, Intel and NVIDIA already investing into RISC-V. If you remember, AMD tried to have some 10 years ago plus hybrid CPUs with ARM cores inside as well. That didn't go through very well. Whatever happened, doesn't really matter now, not to revisit the past. So my point with my metaphor about Apple doing the integrated design was that is the future for all of them.
Okay. I agree. But right now,
and that's one of the reasons why Intel went into ARC business, I think. One, not the biggest one, but at least a small one.
But basically what you're saying is that Intel, who already had integrated graphics, is right now shifting into the market of discrete graphics at the same time when everybody else is going to the integrated graphics.
Yes, because they have the power and the money to do that.
For how long? I just checked. It says that GPU market has contracted by 25% year to year in the third quarter of the 2022.
Can I be human for a second?
Just give me a second. At the same time, CPU market shrunk, but 5%. And the desktops have grown by 10%. So basically, people are buying desktops.
Not buying graphic cards.
Not buying graphic cards.
Buying CPUs.
Buying CPUs. And so they're buying a lot more PCs, a lot more desktops, but they're not buying graphic cards.
Okay, can I be human for a second?
Yes.
How about if we introduce a human concept into why Intel did this with ARC? Maybe, just maybe, they did it out of spite.
To be completely honest, I'm waiting for a Tesla GPU. Because
they are capable of doing it. For all of the, unresolved issues of the past with NVIDIA.
Yes, I know. There is a lot of ego going on in this part of the market. So manufacturing right now and semiconductors are basically all about egos.
One of the things that should worry NVIDIA more, I think, in that sense, is recently there were some new laws that were added to the legal framework in the US, and NVIDIA was denied selling some of the high-end GPUs, but not specifically for gaming, those data center ones, to China and other countries that are now again looked as if, they
But
were in war.
this is another Pandora's box.
It is because that kind of like closes down one of the avenues in which NVIDIA rules the market. Because in that market, they are king by a long margin,
Yes,
by a
okay.
big margin.
Okay, I agree.
Okay.
But the problem is that we are probably going to need to create another entire episode on the technology war that is going on right now in the world.
That's excellent topic, and I would add PCI Express to the top of that list.
Yes, because right now a lot of political in the last probably 5 years or so, there were a lot of political things that influenced the semiconductor market, because it used to be that the technology was driven by technology. Basically, you had a company, whatever the company was, they were trying to do the best job they could. Politics was kept mostly out of the way, and the technology advances were left to the private capital and the private companies. Right now, politics is heavily into trying to disengage those private companies from working with each other. They are trying to influence the technologies, they're trying to influence the market share, they're trying to influence a lot of things. They are banning entire companies, they're banning entire generations of CPUs, GPUs, and so on.
Memory is the next. Actually, some news happened today
they are
as well.
banning people from working in China in order to make the companies weaker, because they want to do the brain drain out of China, because they think that China right now because it has the biggest concentration of people who actually into semiconductors. So there is a lot of things happening. I wouldn't say that I'm not prepared right now to talk about it, but this is a whole different Pandora's box that we need to open later.
Agreed.
Because there is a lot of things to talk about. Since this is supposed to be a podcast, maybe somebody can send me some short notes or some pointers into what should we talk about.
In the chat box.
In the chat box or whatever, or in the comments, because they're going to hate us in the comments. I know. Everybody hates those Slavs when they're talking about IT. But it's easy to do, so it's the easiest thing. But my point is, technology and the politics used to not mix. Now they're mixing heavily, and the problem is that the politics is both heavy-handed and usually completely clueless. So we are going to get a lot of problems coming from that part of the basically market situations, because the politics is going to create turmoil where the turmoil shouldn't exist. They're going
to enhance the chip shortage.
But I'm not, call me strange, but I'm not buying into chip shortage.
I understand.
Because right now, I think that a lot of technology problems are being covered by the chip shortage. There is a lot of devices that are introduced to the market. Suddenly, they find a problem, sometimes with the software, sometimes with the hardware. Then suddenly, there is a chip shortage for this device. Then 2 months come and go, and then when they're finished with fixing the problem, suddenly the devices are back on the market. So I think that chip shortage is there, but a lot of times, from my perspective, it seems that semiconductor providers are basically using chip shortage as an excuse to get more time, as we talked in the last time when we were talking about, to try to finish the products that they had to push to the market. So they create artificial shortage, or they talk about shortage that doesn't exist, in order to get more time to fix things. So, because let's say I won't talk about any cameras right now, because I don't care, but this type of camera came to the market, there was a chip shortage, but actually you could buy a camera all the time. But there was a small amount of cameras, then they came to the market, and then they actually got discounted heavily after the chip shortage. So
And then this continued and then reintroduced.
then reintroduced. So what are we talking about? We are talking about a camera that is expensive, then it's not available, then it becomes cheap, then it's not available, then it comes back to the market for the price that is somewhere in the middle of becoming between the cheap and being expensive. So I think that this wasn't driven by the chip shortage. This was driven by complete lack of idea what to do with the camera on the manufacturer's part, and then trying to find the niche in the market that this camera is going to be in.
You don't think that this has anything to do with the GPU pricing?
GPU pricing right now is trying to ride the wave of inflated prices that the GPU mining has created, because they actually saw, both NVIDIA and AMD saw that people are actually willing to pay $2,000 for a GPU card, and so they said, okay, why not?
Yeah, well, let's make some money.
Let's make some money.
Okay, capitalist approach.
But I'm completely for it. I'm completely for it because they are trying to keep the market.
Okay, unlike what I was saying the last time around in last episode, where I was playing devil's advocate for the capitalistic market, this time I'm going to say something completely different, which is much more aligned with what I actually think, which would be I'm all for the market and the capital and all of that, but up to a point. I think that point, from my perspective as a user now, as a buyer, is actually something that's way surpassed. That's one thing. Then the second thing, you know that from our internal jokes in the office that we work in, you guys made fun of me for buying a new computer without the new graphics card numerous times, and hence the reason why. Because I can afford it, I could afford it, but I am not giving $2,000 for any card unless it does everything that I want to, plus 100% more, plus makes coffee for all of us, plus gives you a back massage when you need to.
Yes, but
you know what I'm saying.
I do hope that both NVIDIA and AMD are going to use this money that they get from this generation of graphic cards to actually do some technology related development. Because
innovation.
let's just switch to a different topic and say that from my perspective, the latest generations of graphic cards are basically lazily designed. They take enormous amount of space in the PC. They are 3 units high. Mm-hmm. They need holding sticks.
They need enormous amount of power.
They catch fire because of the aforementioned amount of power. They use holding sticks. Let me reiterate again.
Mm-hmm, because they're too heavy.
Yes. And this was something that was last seen in the IBM XT with the full-size cards that had to
hard
have
drives.
No. They had the slot for to hold the actually full-size card. So we are moving 30, 40 years in the back into the past in order to accommodate a graphic card that should be technologically advanced. Right now, I think that they're brute forcing their way into the market, and I'm hoping that the money that they get is going to get wasted on the technology.
So it's like reverse Back to the Future.
Yes, sort of, kind of. But I don't care. I don't care if what they do, if they use it, or the money they get, if they use the money to create another set of new technologically advanced cards. Right now, they are just evolving. They are not creating revolutionary new cards. Intel has created some sort of revolution. AMD has created some sort of revolution, different kinds of revolution, because they are right now going into different paths, AMD and Intel. But CPUs, as we said, are innovating. GPUs are not. I want to see innovation on that part. Is there a point to what we did today?
No, that's exactly what I started with. I distinctly knew that there will be no point to be made this time. Unlike the last time in which you made the point AI bad, and I made the point AI not necessarily bad.
Okay.
Capitalism bad, capitalism not necessarily bad.
High prices for GPUs?
Bad. Generally speaking, bad.
Technology and the CPU.
Generally
GPUs.
speaking, let me explain. Generally speaking, bad because it means that that's going to, as you said, drive the mid-range and low-end cards in pricing up, which is bad for everybody. And also, it's bad from a technology standpoint because we are still trying to use a hammer to solve a problem that can be probably solved by taking a little bit of time and using a very, very fine scissor, which is what GPUs are doing, unlike CPUs. GPUs are scissors in that metaphor.
So, price bad, technology bad.
On GPU side of things, I'm afraid a little bit, yes.
Yes. So what we're waiting for is for the GPU guys to get their senses and try to actually do the stuff like it should be done. To do the technology advances, drive the prices down and work.
We do, both you and I deal with...
And this is unfortunately why we need Intel to get their...
act together on a long-term basis.
On the long-term basis and on the driver basis. So we need the biggest hardware manufacturer to be able to provide software in order for biggest hardware manufacturers to be able to provide hardware that's going to be better.
I want to end on a humorous note. You know something that I said on the course that both you and I teach, computer architecture, in the last semester. I said that CPUs and GPUs are basically coming to a halt in terms of technology development just from the perspective of Moore's law, which is very close to being the truth, if it already isn't. Very close to it.
I'm completely not with you on this.
No, wait a second. It's what you think you're going to be able to produce transistors that are smaller than an atom?
No, I'm just saying that sales are going to redefine the Moore's law to whatever it fits them, and we are going to see the Moore's law being as the surface area of a CPU is going to be
twice or 50% or something. Yeah.
Yes. So for a given definition of Moore's law, yes.
That's a good one. Okay, I was talking in a technological sense, and I do know that we agree on that.
Okay.
But what I said to the students, and you were there when I said it as well, on the first lecture related to the Moore's law, is that this is slowly but surely coming to an end. We are going to hit a wall with current technology principles, at least. And the only way in which we can go into the future is to either go NVIDIA way, which is bigger chips, more power, more difficult to cool, less efficiency long term, because they do have a couple of steps still to go through in TSMC manufacturing process, but then they're at the end again. Or we can go around that via some kind of a more, let's say, modular design, which is what AMD and Intel are trying to make on the CPU side. Whatever happens, both approaches do have their pluses and minuses. They are valid approaches to the same topic. But what I definitely dislike is the fact that I told the students that basically that's coming to an end, and then AMD and NVIDIA specifically goes and creates a freaking graphic cards that consumes, 500 watts of power. Damn it.
The biggest problem is that for your definition that is basically wrong right now, of Moore's law for the number of transistors, Apple has created the problem because you have an enormous amount of transistors in the memory being included in the transistor count for the CPU.
Which is normal.
Yes, so Intel has couple of hundreds of thousands of hundreds of billions transistors available to put in the CPU in form of memory and to say, okay, this is the Moore's law at work. So
we want to fake approach it.
Yes. I
love the way you do marketing, man.
Yes, because it is going to actually happen.
No, you should go into technical PR. You'd be good at that.
No, I'm not for any kind of PR.
Okay, just as I'm not for Excel management.
Yes, okay. So on that bombshell, we're going to finish this.
Yes.
To take a closing statement from a well-known show. Thank you for listening. He was veteran. Now it's your part to say this was Jasmin.
This was Jasmin.
And this was the IT show that we were trying to create.
For the good and the bad of it.
Yes, okay.
Bye.
So, bye.